Hello, and welcome to session 2 of Messages from Beyond. I got the call intuitively to have another session for this series, so I really don't know yet who's gonna come through, but I did receive the call to do this. So I just want to let you know that talk about a couple things before I connect and share who would like help today. But I have very clear intentions that I always work with the premise or always work with the energies of love, light, and truth. There's always left and right, up and down, light and dark, and I choose to work with the light and with the concepts or the energies of love, light, and truth, because that makes me feel more comfortable and just safe, I guess, like in a weird way. And just that I'm here to help bring more light and more love and more truth to my life and other people's lives and beyond. So what's coming to me now is just that there's so many things on the other side that just haven't really been dealt with and haven't been resolved. And quite a few years ago now, I had a distance session with a client, and after that session, well, this happened a few times, but the first time I noticed it, I had a session over the phone, or no, it was intuitively with a client, and then I had just finished writing the notes for the session to then send to the person. And I hadn't come out of my intuitive zone yet, pardon me, and I just kind of got the message, look up cultures and countries of the world. And so I was just like, okay, I don't know why I would do that. I've always loved history, and I guess that's a little bit of dramatic foreshadowing in itself, is that I absolutely love learning about human history and cultural history and societal history, and what people experienced in the past and what their lives were like, and what they lived through, and the different basically human history has been a bit of a shit show. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that one. Human history has been an epic shit show, and there's been a lot of trauma, and there's been a lot of war, and there's been a lot of fighting, and there's been a lot of sadness and suffering, and what I'm getting is we're not fully evolved yet. Let's just say that. We have not reached our prime as far as being evolved and enlightened, and love, light, and truth has not reached its maximum capacity yet on the planet. And I've always been fascinated with history, and especially human history. And I'm realizing kind of in this moment, what's coming to me is that that was meant to be an inclination or an inkling or a clue as to what my life path was going to include, or was going to what was going to be a part of that. And I remember being in grade 12 and trying really hard to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and asking my history teacher, I love history so much. I love learning about it, and I just it's so fascinating, and what can I do with history as a job? I so clearly remember this memory is coming to me right now, and it's so clear and so vivid. And he's just well, you know, like, you could be a social studies teacher. And I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. Well, you could be a librarian. No, I was like, I am way too loud of a person to be a librarian. And he's like, well, you know, you could study like anthropology or archaeology or go, you know, more into those types of things. But nothing that he suggested really felt like the right thing that I should be pursuing or that I should be going into. And I just remember feeling, this is funny, it's all coming back to me. Like, it's been quite a few years since I graduated high school. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to say how many, but it's been quite a few. So it's really interesting that this memory is coming back so vividly to me right now to share with you. But I remember being so sad and so disappointed and just like, well, I don't even know what to do with my life. Like, I love history. Like, I want to be able to do something that includes history in it. And I was like, but there's no jobs in history that I want to do. And I just remember being so upset and bummed out because it had been like months and months and months that I had been like thinking of like, what do I want to do? And like, what career do I want to have? And what do I want to go into? And what do I want to take in university or other classes? But university was kind of like the thing in my space at that time. Like, there wasn't really, especially with history, like I kind of was like, well, I'm going to have to go to university and get this awesome career that does something with history. And ironically enough, like, it's all coming like that. I think Meatloaf sings a song where it's like, it's all coming back to me now. And yes, like in this moment, I'm seeing a very distinct and clear connection between me in grade 12 and really wanting to do something with history. And many years later, me now realizing, oh, this is how the history thing all ties together. Like, this is how it comes together, is because I am meant to help human history, or I'm meant to help the energies from human history when they were the present, but now they're history, and now they're in the past, but like the past is still affecting our present and will continue to affect our future unless we help human history. So anyway, that was a little aside for a moment. But whenever these memories come, or whenever, like, I'm just listening and translating the whole time. Like, I'm not actually thinking much other than I'm thinking of the words to say as I'm translating the messages. Like, because I'm feeling energy. Like, this is the best way I describe it. I'm sensing and feeling energy because, like, for those of you that know me will probably agree, like, I'm very, very sensitive. Like, I'm a highly sensitive person, which sometimes is really helpful, like for this, but sometimes not so much, because a lot of things set me off very easily, and I get hurt by a lot of things and upset by a lot of things and affected by a lot of things that wouldn't even really bother most other people. But when you can use your high sensitivity for a good purpose, then all of a sudden it kind of like helps me be okay with how sensitive I am in all areas of my life. And I'm like, even my hair hurts when I brush it. But so I am using my thinking mind to translate the feeling, or translate the energy that's coming to me that my spidey senses are picking up on, and then I'm like consciously, like in a moment, it's like, oh, I know what to say. Oh, and then that's the side of the brain that I'm using, is to like deliver the words to you. So what I'm doing in these sessions is just, sorry, I had to get my train of thought back there because I was like, I don't even remember what I was talking about. in these sessions, I'm just like, I'm not really thinking, and things are coming to me like every instant, basically. So I'll get an image, or I'll get a feeling, or I'll get like just like a sense of what I'm meant to say and what I'm meant to share. So when this memory popped in, I was just like, whoa, okay, let's talk about that for a minute. And then the realization popped in of what that memory meant for me today, and how it does all connect, and how it's like, oh yeah, like I did know back then. I did know. I just didn't know what to do with what I wanted. Like, I didn't know what to do with history and my love of history, and my love of learning about the human experience in the past. I didn't know what to do with it back then. And I'm just really happy in this moment, actually, that I finally know. Like, that's been a long time of not really knowing, and kind of giving up on it for like 20 years. And then all of a sudden it's starting to come back. So anyway, that wanted to be shared. So I shared it. And so the part with human history is that it was a gong show in so many ways, and there has been so much suffering, and it's almost like our level of evolution has progressed, but it's still not at its sweet spot yet. There's still a lot of suffering, and there's still a lot of pain, but the awareness that I have had for quite some time now is that it's important to help clean up it's important to help clean up the energetic mess that human history has left, so that our current generation and future generations aren't trying to live their own lives in like big piles of energetic poo and pain and messiness from past generations that never got cleaned up. And I just really feel that me growing up as a farm girl, I shoveled a lot of poop. There was a lot of poop on the farm, and I became really okay with poop, and really okay with dealing with poop and messes and stinky things. And it's like, I don't have an issue with that. So maybe that's also part of like how, what, like my experiences, or my life experience from the past is now coming together to help me be who I'm meant to be, and do what I'm meant to do. Because I'm not afraid of poop, and poop doesn't bother me, and it doesn't, like, even when the kids were little, some people get really gaggy with dirty diapers, and like, I just never really had a problem with it. Like, it just, I always joked, like, after I had kids, my sense of smell just kind of like disappeared, and dealing with all that poop just didn't bother me. So I don't know, but I do find it interesting that like, I feel that like my calling is to deal with a lot of poop, and a lot of energetic poop, and you can't have aversions to poo when you're dealing with poop. So it doesn't bother me at all. I kind of like cleaning it up, as odd as that might sound to some of you. It's like, I just really like cleaning up. Like, I loved cleaning up the cow pens. And then I loved it like when my dad would like put out a fresh new bale of straw, and it would just be so clean and so nice, and like it would even smell better, even though it's still in the barn. It would still smell better and look better. And yes, I actually liked cleaning up the poo. So highly ironic, but not that surprising that I really like cleaning up other kinds of poo, like energetic poo and emotional poo and mental poo and life poo. I really like cleaning up life poo. That is a huge truth right there. Boom. There you go. I really like helping people and myself clean up life poo. So as I'm having all these realizations in this moment and sharing them with you, there is a lot of historical poo that it's kind of funny. Like throughout the world, there's physical historical poo that has to get cleaned up, like the remains of things and the destruction of things. And that's not my job. I just know that. Like my job is to clean up the energetic historical poo and teach people about it and share, what's coming to me that needs to get cleaned up so that it's the awareness of it goes beyond just me and the energy itself, because I know that I am meant to educate people about it. And it's just like kind of like the ripple effect, like all I'm doing the work, but I'm sharing it. And so then it's just kind of creating these little ripples so that I just feel it helps to loosen up even more poo. So to get it ready to be resolved and cleaned and neutralized and like find peace. Find some peace. Peace. Historical poo peace. Yes. As you can tell, I am very I'm very not professional. Like I really I'm just being like I can only be myself, and I don't need to be fancy, although I feel like I wore a very pretty shirt today. But I don't need to be fancy and use a whole bunch of big words and be all like serious about it. Like I would much rather be lighthearted and silly and cheeky and just like be who I am, because the topics and the poo that I deal with sometimes can get kind of heavy. So if you're expecting a very professional and using like proper terminology, like whatever that might be, sorry, but that's not me and that's not what you'll get. So I'm just getting the words like off the cuff. Like I'm very off the cuff and I like to just be me, and I might swear sometimes and I might talk about different things in different ways, and that's just what you're going to get. So I hope you're okay with that. And if you're not, that's okay too. Maybe, yeah, if I don't resonate with you, that's okay. And if I do, then that's really good too. So, so getting back to like the very kind of first story that I thought I was telling before these little tangents happened. So I got the message intuitively to look up like countries of the world, but specifically cultures of the world. And so I actually still have it on my phone, like the tab of like list of countries of the world or something like that. And so I looked that up, and then it was like, okay, so now like there are cultures who are energetically like are carrying a lot of baggage because of what they went through in the past. And I don't really even remember, like I remember a few of the cultures that I worked with, that doesn't actually really matter at this moment in time. I don't believe that it matters. It's like, yeah, you could mention it. Nah, you don't really need to, because like it's already done. I already did the work. But okay, so I just keep getting like the Greek and like Greeks and Romans, and that is one that wants to be brought to your awareness today. Is like one of the groups of cultures, or a couple of the cultures that I did help and work with, was like the Greeks and the Romans from way back, and like the Roman Empire and Alexander the Great, and there was a lot there from all the conquering and conquests, and I'm just getting like the people in power, and then the people not in power, and the people that had to give up their power, and the people that like really were not treated well at all through those times, and were kind of just not even treated as human, basically. And their lives were not honored at all by these other groups and whatever. So I started to get those messages of like, when I would kind of be doing like a distance session to help like a living person, before I left my intuitive space, from time to time, I would get the message like, hey, like there's another culture that would like your help, and to clear some of this energy and to clear some of this pain and suffering and these emotions that they died with because of the craziness of their lifetime and what happened in it. So that wanted me to share that with you today. And so that was the first, like that was the beginning of me realizing, like starting to realize some things about deceased people and about human history. And it's kind of just been like a progression of understandings and learnings and realizations since then, but also like getting over my own insecurities about like doing that. And then once I got over the insecurities of doing that, then I had some insecurities about like sharing that with other people because it's different. And basically it was just meant to be like a progression for me to get to this point where it's like, it's totally normal for me. It's totally clear. I have a lot of understandings. The more of this I do, I'm sure more understandings will come. There's no doubt in my mind that more understandings will come, but also that like I am meant to share it with other people, and I am meant to educate, and I am meant to like, you know, help plant seeds of awareness of what's going on over there on that side. And so, yes, that is basically like what this series is about, but also like in the moment sharing who is asking for help. Now, one thing that possibly makes me a little bit different than other intuitive or psychic people is that I don't go looking. I just like turn my light on saying I'm available to help people, and then they come to me. And so I like there's been a lot of people and a lot of energies coming to me for years now, asking for my help. So that's just, and I've always helped. It's just that now I feel that it's time to publicly share my experiences of like what I'm doing and what's coming through and who I'm helping. So that's the next step for me with this. So I'm just going to take a moment and just ask if there's anything. If you see me looking to the left a lot, that's just like where my eyes focus to like connect and get like the visuals, and like it's not like my physical eyes are looking over here, but it's just a spot to focus on as these things are coming. So if you're wondering like what's up with the left, that's just where this is coming from. And it's like where I can like, my spidey senses are picking up that the energy is coming is from the left. So, well, which makes sense because the left side of your brain is the intuitive side. And yeah, so it makes some logical sense to me, and maybe that's the reason, and maybe it's not, I'm not sure, but that's what I'm going with for today. Okay, so I'm just seeing that I'm turning on my light to let people on the other side know that like I am here, and if anyone would like to come to me in love, light, and truth, I'm happy and able to help them. And the first thing I'm seeing is just kind of like white. I'm actually seeing like white feathers on the ground, okay, which is now like it's coming up into like a white bird. But initially it was just like, it was like a white smear, which then like gathered itself into white feathers, and then the feathers gathered themselves up into this white bird. And like, it's a very big white bird. Like, I'm guessing oh, I'll ask it. Are you a dove? Yes. Are you a dove kind of like mixed with something else? I'm getting the word pigeon. I believe doves and pigeons are the same, like, come from the same like species, kind of like family of animals or whatever. And I actually got like carrier pigeon, but it's very white. So am I meant to help carrier pigeons today? And I got a yes. Am I meant to help the people who were connected to carrier pigeons? And I'm getting a yes, but I am getting that like the main energy that I am meant to help today was carrier, or is carrier pigeons. But I just see like people at one end like sending the pigeons, and people at another end receiving the pigeons. And I'm just kind of getting the message that like very, very most of the time, carrier pigeons were used in times of trauma, not in happy, like, oh, I just want to tell someone I love them times. Like, I'm just getting like, usually they were used in war times and times of like, yes, to relay messages of the plans and to relay messages of what was coming up and what was going to happen. And what they're saying to me is that like, it was a really big burden for them, and the weight of what they were carrying was very heavy, but not the physical weight. It was like, it was almost like they were the first ones to, and a lot of people are going to say, well, it's a freaking pigeon, Shannon, like, but, and they didn't even know. But on some level, they do. Like, so here's a little piece of information that's coming to me right now that I'm going to share, that I never really thought of before, but feels very true to me. So we have a really big brain and a really big like intellect. Like the frontal cortex of our brain is very big. And so there's a lot of like intellectual information that we're able to like have in our brain. So we're able to think very intellectually. And so intellectually, other animals are not very intellectual, but what they lack in intellect, because of how their brain is made, what they lack in intellect, they make up for in instincts and like spidey senses and vibes and feeling like their senses, which is what they're saying to me is like, that's what they felt. Like, no, like intellectually, carrier pigeons did not intellectually know what the messages meant or what they were carrying, but instinctually, they knew that there was a lot of weight to the messages that they were carrying. And a lot of times it would lead to war, and it would lead to plans of war, and it would lead to messages of who had died. And like, I just keep getting like, they carried such heavy, energetically heavy messages. And what I'm getting is like, again, like birds aren't the same as people in how they like feel and think and do, but it was very hard for them to be given that role. Another animal that I'm getting right now is like war horses. Like, yeah, they're coming to me now too. But they're just saying like it was very hard for them. It was very heavy for them to be used in that role and to be like taken from their natural environment and to be given that role with people, like by people, for people. And so what I'm getting is just like, so obviously you're probably piecing together that like I don't just work with people. I work with nature and like water and animals and like whatever comes to me, that's just who I work with. I do not discriminate with who I work with. It's like if like whoever and whatever comes to me, as long as you're coming in love, light, and truth, like it doesn't matter what form you are. It doesn't matter. Like there is energy in everything. And it's the energy that comes to me. So, and intuitively, like I can translate what they're trying to get across. It doesn't matter that birds don't speak English or that horses don't speak English, because I'm not translating the spoken word. I'm translating the feeling, and I'm translating the energy of what they were feeling and what their experience was. Someday I might even connect with rocks. Like, who knows, right? Like rocks have energy. And so I'm being asked now, like, if like there's like, I just see like there's some war horses that would also like help today to release like these burdens and release the heaviness and release the weight, and kind of like they were given human jobs. They were not humans, but they were given human jobs. They were given human duties by humans. And I just get that like they were very loyal and they did what they were asked to do, but they were sad that they got taken from their natural environment to have a job like that. And like anytime you take an animal out of its natural environment, you are taking it out of its natural environment to use it for your own benefit and to help yourself. And I'm getting that like most times, not all the time, especially with horses, like some horses just don't want to be tamed. And some dogs don't want to be tamed. Like those little wild dogs, like they just, and across the world, like they just don't want to be tamed. Like it's like, do not tame us. And there's some cats too. Like, and that's just what's coming to me. Like there's probably like there's tons of wild animals that don't want to be tamed, but there's also like branches of domesticized animals that also don't want to be tamed. Some of them are okay with it. Some of them understand like it helps people. But some of them are just like, no. There's like a clear no. Don't do it. Not a good idea. Not going to work out well. So it's like these creatures allowed themselves to be tamed and allowed themselves to be human helpers. But what I'm getting is like all of the animals who were given jobs where there was war and fighting and death and pain and agony and like all of those things, like that was just really, what they're saying to me is like, that is not what I signed up for. Like when I was okay to be tamed and I was okay to help humans, that is not the role that I wanted to be given. And what they're saying is like they were very loyal and they did their jobs, but like so many of them died in the trauma of the human trauma. And so what they're asking is like, can you please set us free from that space and from that role and from that energy of being caught up in the messes of what was going on with humans at that time. Because like it's not like the birds were at war with each other, and it's not like the horses were at war with each other. Humans were at war with each other, and humans were killing each other. But like these animals got caught up in it, and they were given jobs like in that mess. And so I feel like that is what they're asking of me. Like, can you please help all the animals? And I'm getting like carrier pigeons and horses are the ones that are coming to me today. I'm also seeing some dogs now. Oh yeah, like there were a lot of dogs that were trained to attack people and like to confine people and to scare people and like to intimidate people so they wouldn't try to run away. And like I'm getting like prison dogs and like World War II, like the German soldiers and the German guards with the concentration camps. And like so these dogs were used to intimidate, like attack, guard. And again, like they did it, but they're not super happy that was the roles that they were given, and they just would like to be set free from that space and from the jobs that they felt they had to do for their own survival. Because like once an animal is tamed, if a human doesn't have use for it, or if it doesn't do a very good job of what the human wants, it goes bye-bye. Like the human casts it aside and doesn't have use for it and either kills it or sends it away or gives it to someone else or whatever. So they felt like because they had already been tamed, then when they were given these heavy jobs, they felt like their survival depended on it, because again, instinctually they knew that if they didn't do their job, the human would be done with them and not their life depended on it. And so I'm getting carrier pigeons, war horses, and these guard dogs and attack dogs I'm getting. And I'm just asking if there's any other like animals that would like help releasing themselves from those roles and from the heaviness and from what they saw and did, and like to be forgiven. So like the dogs are actually asking to be forgiven. Like, can you please forgive us for becoming that? Yeah, and I'm seeing now too, like the horses from like the knights, the times of the knights, and like they were used in jousting battles, and they were used to carry the knights that like battled each other. And so they were fancy horses, but their purpose was the same, was to like hurt people, help people hurt people. And then I'm getting the horses like from the Wild Wild West as well, and the horses that people would ride to kill the buffalo and to kill all sorts of creatures in those days, like the pioneer days, and the like I'm just getting like the Wild Wild West, because they like it just hurt them so much to be a part. And I'm getting like with all of them, not with all of them at that time. Like some of them loved helping their owners, and some of them like it was like the thrill of the chase, And at that time, they didn't realize like the bigger consequences of what they were helping their owners do. But it's funny, like once you cross over and you're on the other side, all of a sudden you have like a bird's eye view of the whole picture. And it's like, oh my God, like I helped, like I was a part of the near extinction of the buffalo. And like they, yeah, again, energy is energy, and it doesn't matter if it's a human or a horse. Like they still have feelings, and they still have awareness, and they still have consciousness. And whether it's coming from intellect or instinct, it really doesn't matter. Like if it's there, it's there. So I'm also seeing Wild Wild West horses and the jobs that they had, and the battles between the First Nations people and the government and the cowboys, and that whole mess of things, and the roles that the horses played in that. And they're all just asking, like, can we please just be set free from that? And can we please just, like, no longer be connected to that energetically in human history? Like, can our energy no longer be connected to that? So history is history, and the physical is the physical. But the energetic can be dealt with at any time. Like, it doesn't mean that there all of a sudden won't be horses that were a part of whatever. Well, of course they were. And of course, like, there's human history is what it is, the physical human history. But, like, what's the saying I always say? You can't change the past, and you can't change what happened in the past, but you at any time can go back and heal it. You can go back and heal the past and find peace with the past. And that's what I'm helping to do. So I'm just asking if there's anything else that they would like me to share before I so what I'm doing right now is, like, I'm bringing awareness, and I'm acknowledging these animals that are coming to me today. And there's, like, acknowledgement is part of the healing process. Truth is part of the healing process, and permission is part. Funny. I said heart, but I meant part. So permission is part of the healing process. And so as I'm sharing this with you, I just see the energy of all of them. Like, it's like their awareness has been brought to them, and the truth has been shared, and their truth has been heard. And now they were like, and now she's giving us permission. And I'm just seeing that, like, all their little souls and all their little spirits are just, like, rising up from where they ended up, and they're just going back to love, light, and truth, and they're going back to God, or they're going back to source, or they're going back to creator, or they're going back. The words don't matter. It's just that, like, well, the words do matter, but, like, there's so many different words to describe the same thing. The words do matter, actually. That didn't come out right. But there's so many different words that describes the thing that which word I use doesn't matter. There you go. And I see that they're being released, and they're being, it's like, it's a healing process for them. And it's like, they can be at peace. And, like, what I'm seeing is, like, they can go back to their natural form now. Like, they're no longer carrying the heaviness of their human given duties, and they're no longer, like, feeling burdened, and they're just able to go back to being a dog, and they're able to go back to being a horse, and they're able to go back to being a bird. And it's reconnecting them with their natural state. That like, it's like their God-given state, like their God-given purpose was to be what they were. But then they had human purposes during their lifetime, but it's just like allowing them to just go back to their God-given purpose. And they're very happy about that. Like they just were like, I didn't want to lay in that human created mess for eternity. Like, thank you. You are welcome. And I'm just asking if there's anything else that they would like me to share or to help them with. And they're saying no. And they're just saying thank you. And they're just saying that, like, they really, really appreciate being heard. Because number one, like, not everybody can speak animal. And number two, not everyone goes back to listen. And they just really appreciate that I am willing to do that, and also that I'm willing to share it with you. So you are welcome. And is that all for today? Yes, that is all for today. That's how quick it wraps up. Like, there's just like so much. But then when it's done, it's just done. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're good. So then I'm like, okay, well, time to wrap up this session. And thank you for joining me in this session today, or being, just for being willing to learn and watch. And like, it doesn't matter when you see, what I'm getting is, it doesn't matter when you see this. It could be like 10 years from when I've actually recorded it, but there's just something, like, I'm getting the word freeing about, like, even if it's 2030 when you are seeing this, like, there's just like this freeing energy at the time that this is seen. That, like, if there are any animals from the past that you are connected to in any lifetime or any family, like, lineage, that gives the opportunity, by you watching this, it doesn't matter when you watch it, that allows any animal who is heavy and who is burdened and who's, like, that you're personally connected to then, like, be able to free themselves through your awareness and through the possibility that you are connected to animals from the past who served very heavy purposes. So that's kind of cool. That's just all coming to me right now. So thank you, no matter when or where you're watching this. I just want to say thank you, because you watching this has the potential to help and has the ripple effect to help. So thank you. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.